put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning.
Viewers, welcome back this morning to the Tobago Updates Morning Show. We are chatting this morning with Joseph Jordon, Sergeant of the TTPS. And this morning, Officer Jordon is going to give us an update from the TTPS. And we're going to be talking as well about the powers of a police officer. It's a very interesting topic this morning. Good morning and welcome to you, Sergeant.
Good morning to you. Good morning to Trinidad and Tobago. Thanks for having me this morning.
Always.
Police service. Always
good to have you in the program. So what updates have you got for us? Let's get into the updates and then we get into the topic.
All right. So as relates to our statistics for the year thus far, so we're going to compare January 1st to May 20th, 2022 versus 2023. So our SRCs stands at 317.
And our SRCs refer to?
Our serious report crimes, sorry. All right. So that is for the figure for 2022 as compared to 227 for this year. So we would have seen a decrease of a decrease of 90 less SRCs in this year. Our detection rate for the division stands at 26%. That has fallen drastically compared to last year's figure, which would have ranged around the 40%. So our detection rate has significantly fallen. Our murders for the year thus far, we would have had 6. Here we were able to solve 2, so that would have given our detection rate of 40% as it relates to murders. Our troubling crimes or total crimes remain general larceny, sexual offenses, and breaking offenses. So that is where we are as relates to our statistics. On the good side of it, on last Monday the 22nd, officers of the Rhea police station, kudos to them. I must appreciate that they did good, diligent work. They would have recovered 1 firearm, a pistol, a Luger pistol with 9 rounds. 2 persons were arrested for that in that instance, and other inquiries are ongoing in that matter. So as I said, we want to figure special thanks to the Rhea officers and the Rhea district for at least taking off 1 firearm with 9 rounds off the streets.
All right, and I'm really happy. I'm sure Tobago and our viewers are really happy to hear those statistics. Some areas of concern, but certainly we appreciate the information.
Yes, certainly. And we encourage the public to continue to feed us with that information because we have to partner. And that is the only way we're going to get these firearms and these illegal rounds and ammunition, rather, off the streets of Trinidad and Tobago. So every firearm taken off may be able to save several lives because, as I always see, every wrong can take a life.
That's right. That's right. All right. So I want us to chat a little bit here about the powers of a police officer. You know, viewers and Officer Jordon, there's a saying, a local saying that after God is the police. I'm sure that we've heard that after God is the police. Let's talk a little bit about the powers of a police officer versus the powers of a licensing officer. Now, quite recently, we saw licensing officers from Trinidad who were here in Tobago, along with other officers from right here in Tobago, and they conducted road traffic exercises. And there were some persons who, can a police officer charge you for illegal tires? Can they charge for broken windshield? And all of these things, the powers of a police officer versus the powers of a licensing officer. So, and this is in light of the Motor Vehicle and Road Traffic Act, in light of what has recently transpired. So give us an idea this morning of the powers.
Right, so our powers, the powers of a police officer lies in several sections, right? I know you would have gone on to talk about the aspect of the road traffic accident, but let me just bring it back a little bit before we get to that point. Now, the Police Service Act of 2006 is an amendment, and it is found in our Constitution under 1501. That is what gives police officers to perform their duties, or give us the authority to guide us in the duties that we would do on a daily basis. All right. Section 45, allow me to just look at Section 45 of that Police Service Act. The first thing they would have identified, a police officer shall preserve the peace and detect crime and other breaches of the law. That is A. B. May arrest, charge, and bring before a summary court a person found committing any offense, render him liable to arrest without warrant, or whom he reasonably suspect of having committed any such offense. And one more we'll look at, may summon before a summary court a person whom he reasonably suspects of committing an offense. And having read those three sections or subsections of that Police Service Act, it shows how we can do our things and what are the offense, what powers we have as it relates to that. Now, we often confuse that now with powers of arrest, right? Although I will read and it may sound similar. So the powers of arrest that is now in section 46 of the Police Service Act. All right, so a police officer may arrest without warrant persons who commit aggravated assaults based on a recent commission of a crime. That's A. B, a person who commits a breach in his presence. And I will look at C, obstruct an officer in the execution of his duty. And lastly, which is also an interesting one, this is E, I'm skipping D, persons found lying or loitering in any place and cannot give a satisfactory account of himself.
Can be arrested.
Can be arrested. And this is where we have the differentiation between our powers and our powers of arrest. Our powers is just the authority in which we are guided in doing our duties. So we have our power of arrest based on our police powers, if I could put it that way, right? So it's something that a lot of people may struggle with, and as it relates to powers of arrest, it has to do sometime with the recent commission of a crime. So in this instance, we are speaking about an example rather, where you just saw a guy running down the road with a cutlass in his hand, blood on his clothes.
Right.
And you walk a few meters, you saw a man bleeding on the ground from chop wounds. The police now, reasonable suspicion, would assume that the man who we just see running down the road or just saw running is the most likely the person. So we can arrest that person without warrant. I will go a little further. The public or civilian, they also have that power of arrest. And they have that power of arrest under section 1004 of our Constitution, where both police and civilian can arrest person for crimes that are committed in their view and crimes that are committed as it relates to recent possession. So you cannot go and just lock up a man who may have committed a crime a few weeks ago and take him without a warrant and think that it will be due process. In that instance, you'll have to conduct an inquiry, get the necessary information, and bring that person before the court of justice.
I say here, wow. I say here, wow, to that. So, as a civilian, we have the right to arrest.
Yes.
Once it happens within
your view.
Of you.
And recent commission.
Right.
And recent commission mean something happened now, you see a man running down the road, more than likely he might have been the person. More than likely.
Hey, and this stop is that man. Stop right? That man.
So that person can be detained and you could summon the police. Or sometimes in some instances, some people will take the person to the police station. So those are the laws that guides us as it relates to arresting persons without a warrant.
All right, but with regards to motor vehicle, the Motor Vehicle Act, the Motor Vehicle and Road Traffic Act, can the police charge a driver for something that we might deem should be under the licensing officers or licensing division?
All right. So the Motor Vehicle and Road Traffic Act 4850 give both the police and the license authority the same or similar, let me just say similar authority, because the license officers operate under the same 4850, likewise the police officer. Right? In our instance, we often proceed, and both license officers, I should say, and the police we proceed by use of our fixed penalty notice, which has gone with an electronic device now. The same offenses that a police officer would charge you for, it is the same offense that a licensed officer would charge you for. So we cannot interpret that same act in two different ways for two different entities. The rules apply to both entities. So I know we would have had that challenge in Tobago, and a lot of people was having a little it was a national issue, if I may say. However, the officers who acted within the law, and what we often ask for is leniency. And sometimes when we don't get leniency, we tend to, let's say, cry wolf. Right? But we must be clear that the law, as it relates to the Road Traffic Act, are within the reach, I mean, use the word, within the reach of both the police and the licensing officers.
All right. Now, there was a video circulating around social media quite recently with a gentleman with a van, and there was a bucket. He indicated, he identified himself as a farmer, and there was a bucket that was in the tray of the van. Now, there's a lot of information that the public does not have, of course. In the court of public opinion, the officer was found guilty in the court of public opinion because this officer apparently was asking for the insurance and driver's license, and I'm not sure if the driver must have felt that he was being charged somewhat because of the bucket.
Right.
The court of public opinion.
Right. Matters like that, I would have to be very limited in my response at this point in time.
Yeah.
So how I am going to respond to that question or that concern is that, one, we have not seen the entire footage of that video, and I have seen it, and the guy with the bucket, or the driver, the alleged driver, what he indicated is that you cannot charge me for a bucket. No, right. I did not hear anything about anybody being charged.
Nor did I listened to the video.
And he also complied. He said I am going to give you my driver's permit and my insurance. So, as I said, the comment, I don't want to comment too much on it because the facts of that instance is not clearly defined, because with most videos, we only see certain interesting parts. We do not see the foundation of it. Now, generally speaking, a lot of persons are intimidated where they are stopped by a police officer and they ask them for the driver's permit and the insurance. And automatically, some persons become apprehensive and start to behave in an irrational manner as if they are being issued a ticket. Sometimes you may get a warning. Sometimes we are doing our routine checks. We are sometimes under our 1601, we are looking for firearms, persons in the instance of pre-deal license. So that truck, that man with the authority would have been under the pre-deal license act, right? To check for bill of lading and goods and these kind of things. So sometimes the mere question this turn out into be an argument, and oftentimes this is where we end up in situations where you hear persons are being charged for resisting arrest, obscene language, because the initial the initial offense that was detected
is muddied
by those ongoing events that is not related to what you would have. So we often say, just comply, all right? Okay. And if you feel that you are being taken advantage of, there are redress. You have the police complaints authority. You can take your matter to court. If you are given a ticket that you do not think that you was warranted, you can take your matter before the court rather than end up in a confrontation with the police. Likewise, the police, we of ourselves, we must be able to be the first judge, and we must be able to control these situations and not aggravate it, because we may know what we are out there doing, but the public may not know, and not everything we may be able to explain.
All right, a question coming in from a viewer on the live here. Can someone in shorts and a t-shirt tattoos, gold chain, and multiple rings on represent themselves as police by giving a command to another person without showing their police ID to that person and expect that person to comply.
Instructions to stop a police or stop someone in public, that person must be in uniform. All right. If you are in civilian clothes, how would I know that you are a police officer? Hence the reason we are given badge and ID card to present to the public when speaking with them. So if somebody is attired like that, it does not mean that they cannot talk to you, but they must identify themselves as a police officer. For example, if there's a road traffic exercise, we must have a police officer in uniform to stop a vehicle. There are only, not only, but there are very few people who have the authority to stop a vehicle. One are police officers, two, licensed officers, and three, and three, a person who is crossing the road with animals. They can stop vehicular traffic. All right? So, a person purporting to be a police officer in attire like that would raise some questions, and they can, and if the public refuse to comply, they have all authority to.
Understood, and I'm glad we got that out there. And can some, if we have a citizen's arrest, do we have a citizen's arrest in Trinidad and Tobago? And a viewer on the live is asking, can you ask if we have citizen's arrest in Trinidad and Tobago?
Right, as I indicated earlier, I refer to section 1004 of our Constitution, which gives civilian the authority to arrest persons. And as I said, we talk about the recent commission of a crime and if it was done in your view. So the police and the civilian has that authority under section 1004 of the Constitution. So in simple terms, yes, we have what we loosely term a citizen arrest.
All right, well, Officer Jordon, we're going to leave it there for today, and I want to thank you for joining us. And I'm sorry for making you laugh on air.
Well,
and
the off-air joke.
Yes. All right, so we've got lots more coming up this morning, viewers, on the Tobago Updates morning show. So share the live, share the live, share the live.